today we're going to be talking about 10 email templates that you should have to efficiently manage a destination wedding.
All right. I'm so glad you're doing this.
Isn't this so exciting? Here we go. Number 1, an inquiry email with the details on room options, dates, and how to RSVP. In other words, even though the guests of the wedding are given instructions to, let's say, go to a certain website to get details, some of them just don't know how to follow the instructions. So they will reach out to you individually. They might call you, they might email you, whatever it might be. But you need to have a template made with all the details, all the questions people want to know. They want to know about the rooms. They want to know about the options. They want to know about the dates. They want to know about the prices. They want to know about the cancel policy. Like, create, when you are putting a group together, have that email template on the ready, because those questions are going to come. You copy and paste, boom, you're done. The second thing is 2 additional inquiry reminder emails to give a sense of urgency to reserve if they haven't already booked.
Yes. Well, this is very important. And this is one way that we were able to get a lot more bookings in our groups, is because once we got their name and email, we could send them out reminder emails. So if they don't book, I had it set up so if they didn't book, I could keep track of who they were, and I would have emails sent out to them every so many, like once a week. It really helps get your group, grow your group quicker. Right. It doesn't give people as much chance to go rogue on you, and it keeps everybody in tight. And so that's a great piece of advice, a great template.
Kind of like that whole out of sight, out of mind, right?
Right. You're reminding them.
You're reminding them. You're not being a pest.
Right.
You're not frustrating anybody. You're like, okay, that's right. I did need to take care of that. Thanks for the email reminder. I'm going to take care of that right now. And what's nice about that is once you do it, just have that main template, and then you're just switching it out for the details of that certain couple.
That's right.
Some of the stuff you're like front loading a little bit, and then in the end, as you keep doing more and more weddings, it just becomes more of a fill in the blank. Okay. Also, a welcome email with the next steps and a reminder to check their passport expiration date.
Yes.
So once people do join that the wedding group, you want to have like a templated type of typical, welcome. So glad that you're part of the group, but then maybe a couple of other tips or what to expect next, or like a little tip about you can make payments, of any amount between now and the final payment date. You don't have to wait till the final payment date. And then giving this as your first opportunity, because we know they're likely going to read that welcome email, to check their passport expiration date. This is going to be your first opportunity to remind them to check that, because people don't. And they think that everything's all fine and dandy. And then they wait and they wait and they wait. And then, then all of a sudden,
you don't want them to wait.
Yeah. It's 3 months before the wedding or 2 months or whatever. And they're like, oh, whoops. Every touch point you have is just another way for them to know who you are and what you do, so that if the question does come up, they know who to turn to, right?
Builds trust.
It builds that trust. It starts building that relationship. People just aren't like out here not even knowing and remembering what to do and how to I booked something. That's right. What dates did I book, and who do I reach out to for that? If you're constantly, connecting with them, then they're going to remember who you are. You cannot over communicate. And you also have to assume that people are not going to open up every single email. Yeah. So with that, I have another passport expiration date reminder. Okay. If there is several months that are going to go, let's say somebody jumps in right away with a wedding group, and the wedding is literally over a year away, but they made their deposit. You send out a welcome email. It's going to be a long time till maybe they have another touch point with you, because there's really not a whole lot for them to do except for maybe make a few payments if they wanted to, but those aren't required, right? So send out another passport expiration email reminder and just say, hey, just checking in, we're about 6 months prior to the wedding. I want to make sure that you've checked to make sure that your passport expiration date is good. You don't need to, renew it or any of those types of things. Okay. The next thing is a payment reminder emails.
Oh, yes.
So these can be sent out once per month, and you can, in every single one of these emails, you are going to remind them also of the final payment date. Why? Because they don't have to make a payment. It's kind of like, hey, this is just a courtesy check-in, and letting you know that if you wanted to make a payment toward the wedding trip, you certainly can. It's not anything you have to do. By the way, the final payment due date is blank, right? You just want to always be reminding people. They have to hear it over and over again. They have to be reminded over and over again. And if you're having these regular touch points with them, then it will be front of mind to them rather than just something that sneaks up on them and then they're panicking because they don't have the funds. Beyond that, then it's really about once you get closer to travel where a lot of this communication and fine tuning is going to happen. So the final payment email reminder, that's something that you want to send out 1 week, 2 weeks prior to the final payment due date. Okay. 1 to 2 weeks prior to the final payment due date, send out that final payment reminder email. So have some sort of template created for that. And then what you would do after that is the airfare itinerary request. Now, what you could do is do this 2 different ways. One, when you send out the invoice, like they make their final payment and you're like, okay, here's your invoice, you're paid in full, way to go. But hey, just so you know, I'm going to need your airfare itinerary. When you get a chance, forward me that. Or however you're going to capture the airfare information. So you can give them a little heads up when you're sending that final invoice because they made their final payment. But then you also want to have an actual email that goes out and reminds them to send in their updated airfare. 8 to 10 weeks prior to travel, 6 to 8 weeks prior to travel. One of those types of time frames is when you want to make sure that you are starting to gather those flight details, and then you'll continually remind people as you are waiting. You'll have your spreadsheet or whatever, and then you'll be able to see who you're waiting on. The other email template that you want to have made is a travel documents template. And you're going to send this out 2 to 3 weeks prior to travel. So basically, I do electronic documents now that the world is different and that's how everything happens. So you want to create a template that you're basically copying and pasting as you're sending these electronic documents to each of the guests. And you want to point out some specific things that they need to know. You might want to answer a frequently asked question. The main thing with the documents is that you want to tell them, please open this up, read it carefully, and then let me know if you have any questions. When you're dealing with human beings, you've got to just be over the top in communication, over the top. And then another email template is the travel protocol requirements and tips. So like I said, you could put some of the travel protocols if you wanted to when you send out the documents. But what I like to do is just kind of more of like a FAQ type of final tips and reminders. Okay. You can send out those travel protocol reminders and tips about 2 weeks prior to travel. And that way that is clear. That is a clear, separate, because people will have questions about that, and all your email subject lines are really important so people can reference back to those. But just clearly saying, this is required for you to arrive. This is required for you to return. Make sure, again, double check your passport expiration date, like literally, again, just those last minute reminders on travel protocols. That's kind of in a separate own email is a good idea to do. The purpose of these templates, also not just communication, is to think ahead of the questions that everybody asked you. And instead of you answering every individual question from 100 wedding guests,
which will make your life a nightmare.
You are being proactive and you're sending this information to them in advance before they even think about the questions so that they have the answer to those questions. And that is the final tips and reminders. And I send this out 1 week prior to travel.
Okay.
1 week prior to travel, final tips and reminders. And here I'm going to list out a few of those things that you can put. So final tips and reminders that you are going to want to share. And again, this is a good template to just create. And then that way, when you have your next group, you can just swap out a little bit of the information because the majority of it is going to remain the same. So first, a reminder to do their online check-in for their flight and to arrive 2 to 3 hours prior to their flight. You want to also share information on the airport shuttle service, how it works, who to look for, the phone number, what to do. Like in Mexico, head outside of the airport. right? You want to give clear instructions on what they're supposed to do, who they're supposed to look for, and a phone number. Give tips on gratuities and to come prepared with cash. People always have questions about gratuities.
Always.
Answer it. Tell them you should have 1s, 5s, and 10s. You should tip these people, these people, these people.
Right. The drivers.
Your tip is included. Your gratuity is included at your all-inclusive resort. However, you can still tip for this, 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 and this. Right. If you get a spa service, tip those people. If you go on an excursion, tip those people. Right. You have to clearly cut every single thing that anybody would ever ask about a gratuity, cover it. Share the customer service number for emergencies during travel, right? Yeah. So you're working with a travel. This is one of the benefits of working with a travel supplier versus going direct with a resort. You have a customer service team available while you are still asleep. And that's when your clients are awake. They're up at 4 a.m. and they're heading to the airport and you are likely sound asleep. Hopefully. So you need to make sure that they know who to reach out for in case of emergency. Right. Another thing is to give details on the travel protocols, even though
you've already done.
You sent that email already.
Do it again.
Do it again. Just put it in there again, because if somebody didn't read that and they're just referencing this one email, then you just need to cover it again. Then also another tip you might want to give is that, how they can call the United States from their cell phone, or of course give them that tip to use the WhatsApp and the for their international calls and when they're in the Wi-Fi. So those are the 10 emails, tips, reminders, and all.
Well, and I'd add one more email. I would put a welcome home email. Yes. So that when they get back, it's sent out to the group maybe within 5 days of them coming back, 3 to 5 days, where it says, welcome home. Hope you had a great time. Please let me know how everything went, that kind of thing. And then if they give you a great report, you can ask if you could use that email for testimony.
All right. Well, everyone have an awesome week. And we will see you next week, Monday, 1 o'clock. All right. See ya.
All right. God bless you guys.